Hi, everyone, and welcome to this first Joystream micro update. So you may be wondering, what on earth is a micro update? Well, there was someone in the channel today who asked a bunch of really interesting questions that I thought, rather than me just answering these sort of ad hoc one-off, why don't I record some content really quickly, and then it could be part of sort of the Joystream pre-mainnet canon that people can look up, and possibly someone else will want to have answers to these sorts of questions as well. So let's jump right into it. So there are 5 questions here. First question is basically the basis of YouTube performance is caching servers installed by providers. How can a decentralized project come close to this? How many nodes do you need? So I take this to be at least 2 separate questions. One is, will you do caching, which is basically the idea of having content close to where the user who wants to consume it is, so there's low latency in getting it started, having playback begin. And the other question is how many nodes you would need to be at the scale of YouTube, and can a decentralized system work or compete? So the current storage system that we have does not have caching, but version 2, which is being built right now, does have the ability to have caching. That was a key requirement in the design. So right now, storage providers really don't have any explicit requirements on where they're supposed to be located in terms of their data centers and their infrastructure, but we can express really complicated policies that allow the lead basically just to set up a structure where you have to, for example, service the west coast of North America, and some other storage provider or group of storage providers have to service, Southeast Asia or some part of Southeast Asia. So we will be able to replicate that sort of CDN-like structure in the Joystream storage system. That's really important for having performant playback, basically, in streaming. In terms of, can a decentralized project compete? I think here the person is imagining that we're using peer-to-peer technology where like the end user is an important part of transmitting the data to other end users, like in a BitTorrent IPFS type of way. That's not part of the tech stack that we use. So all of the distribution load is based on having dedicated service providers that are part of the DAO operating infrastructure that does this. So it's not like your browser or your app or something is going to be uploading to other peers. So in that sense, there's no principal reason why our system should be inferior in terms of its organization to what you could implement for a normal Web 2 service in terms of efficiency. How many nodes you would need? Obviously, very like a lot. YouTube is at a scale which is, frankly, kind of shocking. I can't tell you how many nodes you actually need to do that. That probably depends on a lot of parameters that we don't even know, but we're quite away from that currently. So I don't think we really need to spend a whole lot of time thinking about exactly how many nodes that we need in Joystream. That's anyway a parameter that's adjustable by the bandwidth and storage working groups. So I hope that answers that question. Maybe that was a little bit long-winded. Second, what is the main source of income? Will Joystream be incentivized? Will Joystream incentivize both bloggers and node runners, only advertising or something else? So I think important in answering this question is here, Joystream here means the DAO, the token holders, the blockchain. Us as the company JS Genesis that's launching Joystream certainly doesn't derive any income from Joystream, nor is important in having the DAO have income itself. So it's not like we are having some weird business model or facilitating the DAO's feasibility in terms of its business model. Now, what will the DAO have as the way to capture value from consumers that it could spread to, for example, node runners, workers, developers, council members, validators, and of course, content creators? That actually is not per se tied to advertising, but we have I would say it's a very innovative model, I want to say humbly, for how we can actually abstract away from exactly how to capture value from consumers. I'm going to make a separate video about this, about how we capture value in the system. But the important design constraint there was how to capture value from people who don't have joy. Because right now, obtaining, storing, using a cryptocurrency even an ERC20, which has a lot of infrastructure, let alone a like in the Substrate and Polkadot ecosystem, which is still being built out, that is going to have too much friction for a sort of wide consumer audience. So we don't want to have that as the means of capturing value. But basically, I should wrap up here and say there'll be more content on this. Yes, there is a way to capture value, not for bloggers per se. I'm not sure if the person is totally aligned with what exactly we're doing, but for content creators, certainly there will be value, and that will be an inherent part of the system. So stay tuned for that. Number 3 is if all the nodes store all the data, then this is insane redundancy, which will never allow to keep the amount of data comparable to YouTube. Yes, I think the question here is, are we planning to have every, I guess, storage provider? This is not referring to full nodes, I think. Should every storage provider store the whole content archive? And no, that will not be the case. Again, in the current storage system, that is the case. We're already seeing that's becoming a problem because the content directory is growing pretty quickly. But in the V2, which is being built, the storage is sharded. So, a storage provider has an obligation to store for the long term a small subset of the overall content directory, and then there is a certain amount of replication. So one piece of content or one piece of data is stored by X number of storage providers in total to make sure that there's some amount of redundancy. So the person's quite right. That wouldn't be feasible, and that's why we're not doing that. Number 4 is who and how will be auditing and ensuring security of the platform. It's smart contracts, ? So it's not a smart contract based system. We're not on Ethereum. We are a standalone chain based on Substrate. So that's the sort of chain framework for the Polkadot ecosystem. So our entire blockchain is written, or runtime is written in Rust. So there's no smart contract abstraction. We may have a smart contract module in the system. That may be part of it, but that's not, none of what we're building is going to be in the form of smart contracts. The reason to include that would be if we think maybe we want to allow some experimentation and users to deploy their code without having to do a runtime upgrade. That could be the rationale. But no, it's not a smart contract system. And the auditing, we've already done one audit. We haven't published the result of that yet. That went very well. That was with SR Labs, which is the official auditing partner of Parity or Web3. I can't remember which one, but they basically are very familiar with Substrate and Rust and the whole way of building chains with the Polkadot toolkit. And we're going to have another one before mainnet, obviously, because we're building quite a lot of additional things. So yes, there will be a security audit of our non-smart contract system. And lastly, it seems that this is not the first attempt to create a decentralized video hosting. Is there an analysis of failure of such attempts? There are blogging platforms like Steam. Okay, so I interpret this as, how is this different from other attempts? And it's mixing up both video platform-like attempts and other things like Steam, which was like a blogging platform. And it's also mixing in things that were not decentralized with things that were sort of, well, see, it's an ambiguous term. Things like PeerTube, which is at least is not, doesn't have any sort of consensus layer. I think PeerTube, if I'm not correct, is a federated system. So this is actually another one of those things I will make dedicated video about. Actually, what we're planning to do is to have specific videos where we compare Joystream to other well-known systems that are trying to do something similar to YouTube. So I don't know if Steam would really be appropriate, but there are other video platform-like systems out there. You can have something like, well, you could think of Theta, for example, or LBRY library. Yeah, I would say there actually aren't that many video platform specifically blockchain projects that are at any sort of serious scale, I would say. So there wouldn't actually be that many to pick of, but there are a few to pick of where there are some interesting things to say about how we're different. And I think there are two main things that we will unpack in much more detail. One is the governance side, to what extent the community actually runs and operates the system versus the centralized entity being much more essential as a coordinating and developer and financier of the forward evolution of the system. And then there also is this question of like the creator financing tools that the systems offer. Like most will not, at the current time at least publicly, have not spent a great deal of time focusing on what the Web3 stack can offer in terms of new financial tools for creators. So I think that's also a differentiator. But again, there's going to be more content on that. So let me wrap up. It's already gone a little bit longer than I anticipated. Hope that was useful. Anyone who found this useful, ask more questions and I will make more content. Bye.